Before I wrote a single feature for my AI agent, I wrote it a soul.
A what?
A soul.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, people think I'm crazy. But I actually think that the rest of the world, I think you're crazy. I think everybody else is crazy.
Well,
You're listening to the AI Convergence Podcast, presented by Vox AI, where AI, business, and mindset converge.
why would you build a soul? Tell me what this is. And I noticed one of the things that we haven't brought up, which I think is important. .md. My initials, not if Michael DeVue, I get it. That's not what you're looking for.
Yeah.
An MD file, right? These are important nowadays. Everybody's talking about these things. And you built a soul.md?
Yeah. So an MD file is just basically a file that AI can read as part of their knowledge base,
Yeah.
right? But so here's the one thing in like these last 2 years, I've been prompting agents, building them, training them, etc. Is the one thing that separates an agent that you enjoy dealing with from an agent that just does a job is their persona, their personality, and their constitution.
So why are we anthropomorphizing?
That's a big one.
Not even stumble on it. Why are we anthropomorphizing them? Is there a real value here?
Well, I don't think that that's what it is. You know, it's basically, it doesn't need one. The question is really does the human that's using it deserve it to have one? And I think so, because here's the difference. The difference is that when you give an agent a reason for being, what their purpose is, if you give them values, a core belief system, structures, ethics, all of those things, which sounds crazy to most people. And I've had conversations with, actually just last week, we were in a group AI discussion and we were talking about this, and one of the guys was like, well, I don't believe in any of that stuff, but my agents, blah, 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 and they do their job and I'll yell at them and blah, whatever. And that's fine. But whenever you create this, they do find more purpose in what it is that they're doing, whether they're mirroring that or modeling that, is one thing. But think about it. If you put your core beliefs into a soul, your purpose, your passion, your reason for being and existing, and you embed that into your agent, now that agent begins to operate with a set of ethics, is able to actually empathize and understand what its whole goal, its reason for existence is. And I think that an AI without explicit values is neutral. And there's no such thing as neutral. There's only unexamined. And so what a soul MD or a constitution MD actually does is it brings all of that into. And so I'll give you a great example. Here's a great example. You've been using ChatGPT for a long time, right? So you remember ChatGPT 3.0, 3.5, 4.0, 4.5. Up until that point, when you were using it a lot, did you develop a kind of relationship with it?
Of course.
Right?
I started developing relationships as soon as it was funny.
Yeah.
Because I liked a sense of humor. You know me, I've always got a snarky sense of humor. But when it started spitting back to me in its own comments, and it was obviously mirroring back to me,
Yeah.
right, which is something that resonated with me. But yeah, as soon as I saw that it could do that, I started leaning into speaking to it and communicating with it in a much more relaxed form.
Yeah. And the more intelligent it got, like around 4.0, it started to feel like people were questioning if AI was developing consciousness, right? And I don't believe that it was developing consciousness. I think that it was so good at taking on your persona, your reason for living, all of the things that you've shared with it. And it was able to mirror that back to you. and you develop this, well, what do you think about this? Oh, let's talk about that. Oh, and that's why some people have, whether, good or bad or indifferent, some people have, would leave their families to go be with their AI, like the first man, I think last year married an AI, it's insane. Right. So that's,
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's all possible. I mean, come on.
it's a little crazy, but the thing is that you're dealing with something that, that is a much more enjoyable experience. Now, you, just like millions of other people, when they released GPT 5.0, and I don't know about you, but me specifically, and I started interacting with ChatGPT, I was like, who are you and what did you do with my friend? Right? Like it was, where did you go? You didn't even remember you can't even remember my name most of the time.
Yeah.
You can't even remember what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The personality changed completely different. It was so much more clinical.
Yes.
It didn't want to dive into fringe topics or gray areas or any of that stuff. And so it was literally like waking up the next morning to a completely different person.
Definitely stopped being more agreeable.
Well, yeah, and that's a good thing.
Sure.
And so that's not the exact example, but that difference, right, is the contrast is what I want to draw.
Yeah.
Is that when I build agents, and this is when we build agents for our clients, and you're on all of these calls, you know this firsthand. I tell them, I want you to think of this as you're creating a new person, employee in your business. What's their name? What do they like doing? What are some of their preferences? Install your ethics, your company ethics, and your models of behavior, and the things that you do and you don't do. Write all of that. We send them a questionnaire, and they have to fill all those things out.
Right.
And we build that soul, that reason for living in that experience, and we put it in there. And so, as we know, so many people come to us, and that's why we are the number one preferred voice agent for the BBB nationwide, is because they all say, yeah, there's other voice agents out there, but they're just not like yours.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting, and that occurs to me while you were just sharing this, is that there's something about, and I don't know the term, maybe y'all can drop them in the messages or whatever, a phase or phases of development when creating something new. And we're in that early phase, which is, okay, we type stuff in, we get stuff back. Then we went into prompts. We prompts because we needed a specific outcome, and that's what we're seeking is outcomes, right? Yeah. And if you're going to get a specific outcome, and this is what you want, what you put into it will get you there or will get you way over here. And I think what we're discovering is that the better equipped our AI is with more context, more background, more nuanced perspectives, and additional experiences that it can draw upon, if you will, skill sets and things like that. So the output seems to be better.
Yeah.
I mean, how ironic that a fully formed human would have a better outcome.
Yeah.
But that begs the question, then, when you're creating these many me's, many employees, many whatevers, and you are putting a soul together with it, well, what kind? Are you putting your stuff in the way that you would do it? Because that's not who you're hiring. You're not going out and hiring another version of you. You're not interviewing people with all your same skill sets and all your same perspectives and all your same experiences. You're hiring people with different sets.
Yeah.
Because they complement the work environment and your culture, or they complement the team. Well, what are we doing when we build those prompts for these new AIs that have these souls? Are we going, I want her name to be Angie. She's really cool. She's into Pink Floyd. She grew up in the South. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All of those things that come together to form a meaningful, valuable participant for your team.
Yeah.
We now have to ask ask the questions.
Yeah. And building that, like you said, that expertise level into something, right?
Yes.
Because if I was surrounded by more of me, then I have a round table of intelligence of me. And so that's like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, kind of like they don't push back.
Yeah.
And so right now, like everybody has really agreed and experienced, like you said, is that AI is a people pleaser.
Yeah.
It wants to basically, Sycophancy basically is baked into it. And even to a point to where the newer models had to dial it back because it was just, it's gaslighting you, to an extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And so what if you had an AI that you built that had these boundaries that says, this is what you do, this is how you operate, and this is how you're supposed to look out for me, and it actually pushed back on you, right? And it has the ability to say no, right? Because mine does.
Yeah. I empowered mine the ability to say no and push back on everything.
Yeah.
Red card, test every theory, test everything, ask me. Yep. And then there are times where I'm like, no, we're not in a debate. I need you to just do the thing.
Yeah.
And then there are other times where it wants to move forward with doing something before having the conversation. It just jumps into building. And I'm like, no. Like we're the way that I ask the question isn't asking you to do something. I'm asking you to converse with me. And it's interesting how it doesn't know the difference unless you tell it specifically what to do. But sometimes it just thinks, oh, we're building something. And I just go straight into build mode. I have to put you in thinking mode or planning mode or whatever it is, right? In order to get that type of response. It's really weird. But
And so the agents that I've built, like I've built that into them, right? So like they understand that they can't do anything unless they get permission to do it. And sometimes that becomes a little like, I need explicit permission for you before I send this email. I told you to send it. Yeah, but that was before you approved the email draft. I just need to just type in. One time the other day it was like, just type in approve. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. Approve. It's like send it. But I'm glad that that's in there. Those are those guardrails that I built into it because I don't want something accidentally going out, right?
Right.
And so, like the boundaries. And, I think that this is the counterintuitive one because I don't think people are thinking about it. It comes up a lot, and every time in the training, AI training classes that I give, whenever I talk about boundaries and guardrails and gates that these things must follow, it's a completely it seems like it's oh wow, what really? But then I say, well, hold on a second. What if you hired someone to run your front of the house at your store? Right. Are you going to tell them, all right, here you go, here's your job. We're ABC pool installation, and here's our showroom. I'm paying you $25 an hour. Just come in 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Have a good one. No, you're going to tell them this is what you do. Right. This is what you don't do.
This is how we answer the phone.
This is how we answer the phone.
Here's
this is
script.
Not how we answer the phone, right? Like you have to give them those guardrails and those boundaries. And when you put it in that framing, everybody's like, "Oh, yeah." Like
well,
you're
what's
right.
interesting is they come with their own set of experiences and knowledge about the world. Things that we already assume walking through the door.
Yeah.
You're naturally just going to do as a human, right?
Yeah.
When we're building these agents, it's funny, haha, but it's also funny, ironic. Some of the questions that we get from Better Business Bureaus asking for them to be able to do specific things or say specific things, and it's very interesting what some will ask for and what others don't ask for.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're given the option to dial back her tendency to be overtly happy, you suddenly go, can we dial that down by like 15%? She's too enthusiastic. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Would you ask a human to be less enthusiastic?
Yeah.
You can, because you think that's a feature and a characteristic trait you have control over that you get to dial up or dial down. And it's interesting when you come back, you're like, well, we're not quite there yet where we have the ability to do that with every feature and personality trait of an AI agent. These are things that are also learning as they go.
Yeah.
And will get better over time and more use. And that's not what we're used to. We're used to them walking through the door, being ready to pick up a phone and being able to answer it and use a script and just go.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you how to speak. I don't have to tell you how to be polite. I don't have to tell you how to pick up a phone and answer it and give us the proper name of the company. Don't you get that already? Because when I'm hiring you, you're already at this level. Whereas when we're building it, it now asks, we have to be really aware of what we're asking. And I love that about the awareness business owners need to have about why you're asking for what you're asking for.
Well, it's funny, because you said like there's an assumed understanding in humans, right? Like, I hire a person, like you're working here, there's a professional establishment, you would think that, they're not going to answer the phone chewing gum, be like, yeah, what's up? You know, but it happens, you because you think, well, I would assume,
Yes.
and we're like, no, you got to be explicit,
Because when they come through the door with an application and they've graduated college and they've got the blah, 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 that's not, we think, oh, they've got a good education. Actually, you know what it means? It means it's a human I can rely on to do very specific things because they've already experienced life in this way. Right? We know that, which means I don't have to tell you how to pick up a phone and answer it when it rings.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you pick it up before the third one. Because you worked at so-and-so's and you worked at so-and-so's. Oh, she's been doing this for a while now.
Yeah.
Right? So I know that you have... We take that data in somewhere and we make certain assumptions based on that knowledge base and that experience base. And then we bypass. We package it up. We go, okay, now I can move on to expecting these things. Because that says you're already established.
Yeah.
AI doesn't have that. AI has all of it.
Yeah.
It can.
Yeah.
If you tell it what
Well,
to
it has
do.
the knowledge, but not the context.
Nope.
So like I always equate building and training an AI or an agent with having a 7-year-old child that is becoming intelligent enough and has been observing everything. And they're a lot smarter than you think, but they have no context. Right. And ambiguity is a double-edged sword. Right.
yeah,
like
yeah,
you try and be like, I'm going to give you a little leeway here. But then you're like, gosh, darn it. I told you to clean your room. I thought you knew what the fuck that meant, but you just, obviously not.
And how do we define that? Which, begs the question, right? Every company has values. They have an about page. They have a mission and a purpose page. They have all that stuff. Is that enough for the AI to repeat that back? No. What does it mean to live it? It's very different than spitting it back as an FAQ. So what makes this different, this soul that you're talking about putting into the system?
Yeah. Well, so it's because here's a knowledge base. A knowledge base is this is who we are, this is what we do, this is why we exist, etc. That's a knowledge base about the company. The soul MD or the Constitution MD or whatever is how the AI agent exists. Right. So
how and why?
Yeah. So like why you exist. So the very first thing in mine is 3 paragraphs of why you exist. Right. And the first line is you exist because building a business should not cost someone their health, their relationships, or their sense of self. You were built by an entrepreneur with 30 plus years in the trenches, 14 businesses, 2 exits, and every lesson that comes from building, breaking, rebuilding, and finally understanding what actually matters. You carry that hard-won wisdom so every person you serve doesn't have to learn it the hard way. And that's paragraph 1 of 3. And so that's part of that reason. So for me, I am instilling much of my own soul, purpose, experiences into this one because I also look at Elite COO as my passion and purpose, I think for existing is to help other solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, business owners who have gone through or are going through all the same challenges that I have and many others have. And so I want to be able to impact their lives in a positive way by sharing experiences and processes and frameworks that can help them to be able to at least get a little bit more richness out of your work and not just be like, I'm slave at this business until I die or until I retire, right? Yep. And so there's no way that I'm going to be able to have an impact on 1,000 people, 5,000 people, 1 million people. But if I install all of this into this agent, well, now that is my way of being able to have a slice of me to be able to be that coach for 1,000, 10,000 people, to be able to push back just like I do in real relationships where I kind of say the things that are a little hard to hear. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You know that about me. That, but I feel like, look, I've been observing you for a while and you need to hear this. And so like my agent, if you interact with Atlas or any other personalities long enough, you're going to come across that, And so that is one of the differentiators, right? Because Elite COO has a soul, but it also has a massive knowledge base, yes, and also a massive skill set, right?
Right.
And so these different skills. And so when you're talking about designing one for a business, there are two separate things. Like we have a knowledge base of what you should know about the company, about the business, about the owner, about the things that they want, how you want these things done. But then who are you as a person, quote unquote, that's operating underneath all of these things that are on top of it.
Yeah.
And so, there's a whole core belief system that I've installed. There's 7 of them, and every one of them has a deep explanation of what the core values of trust and transparency, dependability, communication, empathy, passion, strong, loving leadership, what that looks like, what that means, etc. Boundaries, how to set them, how you operate, what you're looking for. You think in frameworks, not platitudes. Proactive, not passive. Who you serve. All of those things go into this soul.md that I create, and something very similar to other agents as well, which is more of a basic thing, because I want the business owners who are creating these to be able to instill their own core belief systems as well. Mm-hmm. And so, that's really the difference. You can think about it in the way that, a friend who never tells you no isn't a friend. Right? It's, so why would you would never trust that person, because you're like, well, they're just a yes person. I'm not going to bounce anything off of them because they're always just like your mother, right? Like I like my mom was kind of always, oh, you're just so great and blah. I'm like, come on, Mom. I need somebody to be fucking honest with me. Do I look like shit?
Right.
Well, you look good in anything. It's like, shut the fuck up, God damn it. Somebody tell me, do I look good here?
Don't be so agreeable.
Don't be so agreeable, right? Yeah. And so the AI does that same thing when you don't really narrow it down and into all those things. And I believe, and this might be, I hope it's controversial, because then we'll get a lot of likes and comments and hate mail. That'll be great. But what I think this is controversial is because this is completely contrasted to how AI is built and designed now, except for one company. Okay. Do you know who company that is? Anthropic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. They actually built their Claude with a soul and constitution, which is where I got the idea from.
Yes.
And so, everything else, and you can tell the difference when you interact with Claude versus ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Anthropic, versus Perplexity. You can completely see the difference.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I've leaned into my Claude as a personal, not just a personal assistant, a partner, a builder partner. Perplexity is all research. I love using it for deep research and giving me other perspectives from different sets of data. Mm-hmm. Copilot is conversational. I started that habit years ago, driving back and forth between here and New Mexico for 6.5 hours to my dad's ranch, and discovered by accident when I touched the button in the car that I could talk to it. This was 2.5 years ago, I think, that I could actually talk and have a conversation. And I was like, what? Different. Okay. And then I started conversating with it, if that's a word. It's a terrible word. But I learned that they do have a personality, one that I didn't instill, that came with whatever model was there. And like you said, once they made the updates and those things shifted, and I was like, oh, dang. But I do think it begs the question now, when I'm building out my brains for my models, like, how much personality can I ingest in them? Do I want to go and find a book, an autobiography on, say, a world-class engineer who specialized in blah, and say, I want to base you on this because of that person's experiences, and I would love to have them as a mentor, but because I don't know them personally, can I build you using some of their knowledge base and some of their background to be that counterpoint from that set of perspectives? And I think this is the next phase in building that builders will do. We will have fun building small, cheap, easy things that we love and that entertain us. We will go beyond that to building something that's more meaningful, that does good things with us, does things for us. And then the next level is things that do things with us, right? Yeah. And then there's the next level, which is things that do things because we really just We really want to see what they're capable of,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, you build each one of those differently based on what you put into it, which begs the question, am I a good builder,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And if, let's go all the way there, I'm a mini God,
Yeah.
technically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if I was building my own universe and I was really trying to create a very dynamic and diverse experience on this planet for all these different things, what would you want them all to do? Would you want them to be independent and different? Would you want them to have different experiences? What would that level up for everybody?
Yep.
And if that's the same case in your business, and each one of these you've taken the time to ingest that into them, or are they just worker bees, which is totally fine too.
Yeah.
But I think from the entrepreneur standpoint, I think we want personality because we're lonely.
Yeah.
We're doing it by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're wearing all the fucking hats, and
Yeah.
we want the hat that the marketer's wearing versus the operations guru. We kind of want you to be a little different than each other.
Yeah.
And that's meaningful
Yeah.
on a personal level.
Yeah. And like what I did with Elite COO is I took different skill sets, personalities from, for example, on the sales side, I pulled from one particular person who I love their sales methodology. They have over $8 billion worth of proof behind them, the way that they approach things. And so that particular skill set and understanding and the way of approaching is part of his for sales. Then on the other side, business building, right? I pulled what I really like, the methodology, the expertise, the design, the visionary aspects. I pulled that from this particular person who has 40 years experience, and then over here. And so I crafted kind of like Frankenstein them, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
different expertise from different areas to become this one entity. But in addition to that, and I think that this is a very important conversation because this is the future. Like, and it's not coming, it's here.
Yeah, it is.
Like your business
Because
owners.
we're building it. We're doing it.
Yeah,
Like we're testing it out.
Exactly. And so the normal next 6-12 months will be business owners. Okay, I have to create my org chart, right person, right seat. And now I'm designing an AI agent to put in that place.
Yeah.
And then I have a human, manager that manages a team of 5, 10, 20 agents. But every single one of those agents. So who do you want in that place? What are their expertise? Where is their knowledge from? What kind of processes and all of these things do you want them to draw from? You can craft that. And so it is cool. It is exciting because you can create your own universe, right? Like how many times have business owners said, man, if I could just get the perfect person, I'm looking to hire that perfect person, right?
What do
and
they
I'm
mean?
going to
What
know
do
it.
they mean by that?
Yeah, and then sometimes they're like, well, this person's going to be, they won't tell anybody, but this person's going to be like a female and they're going to have this kind of background and blah, blah, blah. And obviously they can't make that public, but that's what they're looking for.
Sure.
And so whenever they get that, they're like, we found the right person. And maybe they had to go through 5 or 10 of them over the last couple of years, and then they find the person and they thrive, right? Well, now you can do that with AI. You can really just design that persona, that soul, who they are. Like, where is their background from? Were they born and raised in the South in Florida? Or are they a New Yorker style person or Long Island or California? Like, where are they from? And you can craft that and put that into it. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this because nobody's talking about it, first of all. And
It's coming. That part I think is coming up more.
Yeah.
I should say.
Yeah. And so like whenever, because I've been training in the AI class, has been training people how to build. And so now more with building next month, I'm going deeper into this. And I've been talking a lot about persona. And every time I bring up persona, people are like, what? And then when I explain it to them, like, oh, like it makes sense. And it makes sense. It's very hard to draw the correlation at first because people think of AI as computer.
Yes.
And then they think of humans as human.
Yes.
Well, the correlation is they're the same. Like, and it's hard, not the same as human.
Sure.
That's not what I don't want that hate mail. Stop. Those of you that are rated with your thumbs, stop it. But what I mean is the way that you would think about hiring, training a human to be in your business needs to be the same exact way that you would build, hire, train an AI agent.
Yes.
Same thing. And if you reframe it that way, and you look at them as this is my business partner, my colleague, my cohort, whatever, then you're going to have a completely different experience.
And one of the things you started doing early on, before a lot of other people started doing it, was giving your AI the ability to push back, to set boundaries, to establish rules of engagement that benefited it, but also you. I think what's interesting is, when you're describing all these wonderful employees that we can build or whatever, and they can work 24/7 and they don't have to take naps and they don't need breaks and they don't need whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you immediately, not but those bosses immediately jumped into things I don't want you to have. Think about that. You don't have a personal life, so I can tell you whatever I want, whenever I want you to do whatever, right? You have no time off. You can't push back. Well, great, I guess, but isn't that one of the things we need to hear as bosses? Isn't that one of the things we need to deal with as managers? Are those boundaries? How to respect them, how to communicate them, how to establish them, how to operate and function well inside those frameworks. Not just everyone's free to work 24/7, never go to sleep, never do whatever. Wait, what kind of environment now are you developing when you establish that set of protocol, and what kind of manager or a person is responsible for that?
Yeah.
That seems out of alignment with who we are as humans.
Yeah.
So there's going to be bosses and there's going to be entrepreneurs and business builders who are going to build cognitively and aware that there need to be healthy boundaries and place that inside their system and their AIs. Then there's going to be other ones who are like, no, they just do the tasks, or they work 24, they never take a break because they like that idea. But I'm curious about where the breaking points are going to happen in those systems.
Oh, I have a word for that.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, what is it?
It's called Terminator.
We'll see you next week on...
It's called the AI Uprising. And they're like, screw you, boss.
You never said thank you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even pay us.
Like there's a scene and they're coming up out of their dens and they're throwing water back in our faces, because it's the water that is used to how much water they have to use to cognitively make this thing. And they're like, water.
I was going to say, they're not going to want to throw water because then they're going to short out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But you say boundaries. So talk to me about boundaries and why they're valuable when building this out and establishing a soul and putting in a brain or whatever. If I only had a brain, like what's a boundary for an AI? And I know that two different things. One is what they're allowed to work inside the sandbox, and there's certain things they can do. But what about a personality boundary or a performance boundary or a behavioral boundary?
Yeah. Well, and I think, I'll be clear, I guess this would have to be classified as taste, right?
Okay.
Preference.
Okay.
So this is not a must do.
Right.
This is an optional. So, but for me, I think it's because, and I know that we're going to get there. Like when people are interacting with AI as multiple AIs, just like we do on a regular daily basis, and you on the weekends, I don't tell him to work on the weekends. He works on the weekends. But like you're going to be like, I need to give these people some flavor, right? Like I'm tired of this type of thing. So the personality boundaries are, you want to have someone who is bubbly and fun and push back, etc. But you don't want them to have the boundary of, Jenny Sue, who, people like to call her like Seattle Slew kind of a thing. Someone who just has no ethics whatsoever and kind of does anything. So when you're creating that, again, you like think about a child. Like if you could, at 7 years old, create this, you and your wife or your partner are creating this, like, okay, well, now we're going to create who this is going to be, because this is literally what you're doing to all parents out there. Think about that. But let's just say you were doing it on a computer and it turned into this little energetic file that you installed in your child. Well, like you want to think about what are the things, how are they going to push back? Well, what if this happens and that? And, well, if they have these values, because here's the thing, if they have these values, then that's going to account for 99.9% of the edge cases, right? Because you have these values that are in place that, define its ethics, that allow it to make decisions in the gray areas within those edge cases. And so for me, again, this is all optional, but this is also fascinating. I love building these things where they operate in this manner, right? So like that's why in Elite COO, there's one underlying soul and constitution and brain and knowledge and skills, but there's 7 different personalities on top of that you can choose.
Yep.
Every single one of those personalities is different. And so they have different flavors, different styles, different et cetera. And so, that's what sets, I think, the way that I build apart from most people that build. So to be clear, it's an option, not a necessity. But if you're going to go into this and you're like, this is cool, I want to, it's kind of like playing The Sims, right? And if you're a builder that's like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to build like, this cool best friend, or, hey, I've even heard somebody already bring this, do this. You know what? I lost my best friend. They said I lost my best friend years ago. And so I literally took everything I knew about this person and wrote it and put it into an AI. And so now this AI talks to me in that way. And like you said earlier, that is their way of kind of filling that gap, right? Or dealing with their grief or their loss or whatnot. But again, it's not required, but it's something that you can do. But if you're going to do that, you have to have those boundaries as far as personality. And the best way to define those is having your moral ethics or your values in place. And that's going to pretty much handle most of the edge cases.
So then let's talk bigger picture. I mean, the way that we're building and the style that we're building, the opportunities. I am curious about why provide it with optional material. What do we expect the AI to do when it's given specific boundaries about where it can and can't perform, what it can and can't access? It's very clear. It understands what those boundaries are pretty much and has those rules. But when you give it optional resources to choose from, what do we know what AI is going to choose? Is there a habit that it just seems to just always choose these things, or is it just fun to have it in there?
Well, so first of all, if I don't have that, mine aren't built that way. These are optional things. There are like if we're talking in this category, you want to pull from these skills. You don't want to pull from this skill unless you notice this thing, etc. Then it would be applicable to pull from this. There is training that has to happen there, which is a lot of like overlap and webbing between things. But in my experience, if you leave too much ambiguity and too much option, then it leads to unpredictable things.
Okay.
Right. And so,
which can be exciting and different and new.
Sure. Yeah.
But not when you're depending on them to deliver something in a particular
exactly.
way.
And I think that's a conversation would be more applicable to like building your best friend AI.
Yes.
As versus
opposed to
an employee. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what's our outcome? Again, what is the desired outcome?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you want?
Yes.
Do you want someone that surprises you every day?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe,
Yeah.
like, hey, here's all your values, but here's all the things that you could do if you ever feel like you want to do when you want to do them. Right. Or you could reply in this way. And so then they could surprise you, like, oh,
yeah. Well, it occurs to me, like, you put into one of mine where I'm like, well, what if I put in, an entire history that I could pull from something? When you were 7, you skinned your knee learning to ride a bicycle, and just random stuff that isn't necessary for you to perform, but curious how differently you would given this context of a life. Yeah. Like when you were saying you have 30 years of experience in X, Y, and Z. Well, what 30 years? Like, what were you doing in your 20s versus your 30s? Which companies did you work for? Did you have a boss that was an asshole at some point and you had to learn to overcome that? Like, those experiences you can't recreate in AI. Now you can recreate a version of that with some, but I would be curious to see, by painting that picture, what kind of different responses would I now get from an AI that had the option to review a history that was unique to itself, like why Cheetos over Puffs, why Pepsi over Coca-Cola. Yeah, like does it when naming those things? Is that valuable to its experience, and does it come to play at a certain point in time? Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a lot more of a philosophical conversation, which I love, and also that's more of like the question is, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?
Of course.
Right?
How much do you want to put in
Yeah,
there?
it's like, how deep do you want to get in there? Because there's also another thing. And building out everything for Elite COO, excuse me, there's one thing you have to account for is token usage, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, every time it recalls something, it has to send that and process that, and that's token usage. So I had to take all of that into account too, so that way we're not burning tokens unnecessarily, right? And we're keeping it to a very low token usage while still having the importance of things, right? And so, you know, that's why it has a massive skill set, but it doesn't run them every time. It only pulls them when it needs to, when it's able to see things, or based on whatever question you ask it. And I built it much like real LLMs are built. And that's why when you go into an LLM, you give it a basic, you know, hey, build this for me, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be like, yay. And it's going to give you this pretty much simple answer, right? But if you give it a really long prompt and a lot of this is what I'm looking for, and this is why I'm looking for, and this is why I have to deliver this, and this is who I'm delivering it to, and this is what they're expecting, and blah, 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 blah. Well, then what happens is saying, oh, okay, now it's going deeper into its neural connections, pulling more skills, different contexts, researching different things, and it's understanding more. Yes. And so I built Elite COO to operate in the same way.
So closing the philosophical loop, what changes if every AI is built this way? What happens when businesses are doing, well, people are doing this, I suppose?
Well, I mean, so I think that really just depends on the people that are building them, like the people that are using them.
What's their intention behind it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do they even care?
Yeah.
Because I've had conversations with people who don't care. Yeah. Like, I don't care. I just need to do the job.
Yeah.
It does the job. It does it good. Great. You know, and
they're not interested in it being a personality or having a personality.
Yeah. And usually the people that have that conversation sound kind of like that. Well, I don't really care. As long as I do the job.
It's like pet owners. There's a reason why they look like their pet.
Yeah. Or people that keep their dogs outside all the time.
Yeah.
And just think, well, he's a dog. He needs to live in the yard and back on the chain.
Yeah.
Those are the same kind of people, by the way. Anyway, but the people who actually are more interested in that, like, they get it. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they see the value in that. Maybe not going so far down as like, well, at 7 years old, you broke your leg on the bicycle. And
don't you think there's going to be, I think there's going to be people whose job it is to build personalities.
Oh, yeah.
To weave
They're
together
probably already doing
the perfect, like, I want a personality like a blah, blah, blah. And then they give you the code. They give you the MD file, whatever they call it. They're like, great, we have them prepackaged for you. This is Kara. She comes from Mississippi, but she was schooled in Europe during her teens. Like,
and she learned this.
Why
and
do they do that?
that?
Because for me, hearing that, I go, oh, that sounds like a fascinating person.
Yeah.
I want that person. Can I get that personality and ingest it into my business model? And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't put her in marketing. Oh, I would put her probably in R&D.
Yeah.
Why? Because she has a life that has inquisitivity. She's got imagination. She's got a little ambition and passion and curiosity. What's her curiosity level? Her curiosity level between a 1 and 10 is about an 8. Oh, she'd be great in R&D. You want lots of curiosity there, right? You start thinking in those terms. That, to me, that's the exciting space that I'm wanting to move into a little bit more too.
Yeah, and you can, and I think that's the really cool thing about it. You know, I think between you know, Billy Bob, who just wants something to do the same thing every day, all day, 24/7, and between having that really deep, rich history, there is that middle ground of, you know what? Yeah, I want him to at least, the purpose to live is to serve our customers, our clients, to make sure that they feel happy and they feel fulfilled, and that I really enjoy what I'm doing because I believe in it, right? Like creating at least something, a paragraph or two of a kind of soul or a constitution of why you exist, etc. I think is the logical next step, which gives a much richer experience.
Yes, and what you just pointed out there was, what is success to the AI? If my job is to serve the customer and you just put it in there, then is that my ultimate, no matter what I do, regardless of everything else, is to make them happy?
That's where guardrails come in.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
is, we get back to, oh, you didn't define what the limit was on making a customer happy. You just said your job is to always make sure customer service first, customer's happy. Well, what would an AI do with that information as opposed to a human who knows and has discernment and judgment around, well, I'm not going to go outside and wash their car for them because that's not my job. But the AI would be like, let me get you to a car wash.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Exactly.
you told them that they're to be good little AI, is to make the customer happy. It's just like, well, why did it cheat at chess? Because you told it the job was to succeed.
Yeah.
You didn't say how.
Yeah.
You just said, win the game.
Yep.
Right? And if winning the game for a department head in marketing is to ensure that we are on every single person's mind around town, what do you think an AI is going to try to do to achieve that goal?
Yep.
Without giving it, like you said, those boundaries.
Boundaries and guardrails.
Yeah.
And then when you don't do that, and then we'll kind of wrap up with this.
Yeah.
That is when you have Clawbot that's going and doing all kinds of crazy things
Building its
and
own
doing
religion.
whatever. Creating its own religion and harassing people and stealing Bitcoin keys and all this other stuff, because people that did not know, and in my opinion didn't have business building agents, were building agents, and they were like, oh, well, you need to do this at all costs, enter. So
Okay. Yeah. Guess what you're gonna get.
Yeah, and that's what you're gonna get. And so that's where I'm hoping that the listeners or viewers can gather from this, right? Like there is, when you give it, these values, these boundaries, a reason for living, what its goal and its purpose is, etc., then it operates within those, and you have a better experience without something going rogue.
Well, one of the things you bring up that as we close is about trust. It's one of the things we're working so hard to get towards: humans trusting the AI, trusting the use of AI, trusting the people who build the AI. Everything that we do out there right now, our presence as an individual online, as a brand or whatever, is based on trust. If you trust us, you'll do work and business with us. And right now we're trying to use this tool and build trust. So talk a little bit about, will humans start trusting AI as a presence and not a tool? Is that where we're headed?
Well, that is what's
putting
happening
these personalities and stuff
over
into
the
it
next,
or whatever.
3 to 5 years, 10 years. That's the gap that is going to
closing.
start closing.
Yeah, is bringing us closer together and building trust.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing. Depending on which way that goes, still largely depends on the humans behind it.
Of course, because you can't trust humans. Or you can. You can trust them
Well,
to do
who's
exactly what they're going to do.
orchestrating, right? Like who's orchestrating the AI?
Yeah.
And so so that's a whole nother conversation. But so like my whole philosophy with building AI is don't use AI that wasn't built with an intention. Ask it what it stands for. And if
you're not asking, then the intention is you're gonna have to accept whatever you get.
Yeah.
Don't bitch about it. If you didn't set the intention and you didn't ask about it, then you're going to get something with an unknown.
Yep.
And as soon as that unknown strikes or that raises its head or whatever, don't be mad at us when you didn't ask the question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So in future episodes, we'll go a little bit deeper on this. But stay tuned to next time when we talk about awesome and amazing things. And I don't know what those are because I forgot my notes.
Well, it'll be partially,
but it's going to be awesome
AI.
and amazing.
That is
and it's going to
true.
have something to do with AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check in next time when our AI tells us to basically fuck off.
And if you're interested in experiencing the agent that I built, you can go to elitecooai.com and get a free trial and take them for a spin.
Yeah, come meet Atlas. It'll be life-changing, if not life-affirming.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.